Okay, everybody, welcome back to TARTLE. Jason doesn't even have his headphones on.
I'm ready, bro.
I know you're ready.
Because we're talking about some fun.
This is fun stuff.
And we're jacked up on coffee.
I'm really this roast here. Wow. Now that I just sat down, I'm like, whoa, I am buzzing. So
that's a super dark roast.
Yeah, I'm like wigging out right now. So what the hell are we talking about? Oh yeah. Okay. Engineering human evolution with genomic data. There's a lot of hubbub around this. People saying like, I don't know if we should be doing this stuff.
Well, I think Hollywood plays a role in this. You know, like they did with Aliens, like they've done with a lot of, let's say,
you want to talk about
controversial issues. But no. Well, we are aliens, but we won't get into that. But whenever we look at specifically Hollywood playing this out where there's like these mutations and then, you know, this can go wrong. And next thing you know, you've got this weird looking thing that's cracking itself and crawling all weird, a baby, you know, like,
I like that.
Yeah.
Like that thing that just fell.
We're knocking planes off the bookcase. But I mean, I'm just saying, so this creates a fear.
Yeah. Okay. Obviously, technology, as we learn, things can go wrong, but we don't have to make it disproportionately negative when it can be something that is so beneficial.
But we have to understand, especially when it comes to medical research and medical technology,
yes,
it's changing faster than ever.
Faster than ever.
Faster than our brains can even comprehend.
So here's the point. There are over 3 billion characters of Gattaca in the human genome. So your DNA has a bunch of these specific letters, like protein sequences, that define who you are. This is the roadmap to Jason. This is the roadmap to Alexander. But if I go really far back in that DNA, we all share kind of a common starting ground. But, you know, we all take our roads going forward. Like those things, they deviate. We go in certain directions. Now, some things may be written into that roadmap, right? If it's already headed west, it may continue to head west. And from that, oh my gosh, I hit a certain stop sign. Oh, cancer is here. Oh, interesting. Should have taken that other road back there, right? But the thing is, it's baked into us. It's very hard for us to alter those things. Genes can mutate. But how is it that we get them to mutate for a positive benefit rather than get them to mutate negatively, right? How do we use machines to splice these proteins and then, you know, alter these 3 billion characters so that we can refine who we are as human beings? We can actually accelerate our learning, the quality of our life. We can remove the things that debilitate us, but we got to go down to the source code.
Yeah, and they call it targeted treatment. I mean, whether it's precision medicine with genetic coding, you know, and that's been around since the 70s when they first began to, and I think in the early 80s, wasn't it when, I don't remember, or the early 90s when Clinton came out with the head guy for, and they came out and they announced that they had, you know, figured out DNA and sequencing it.
Right.
But whenever we have these targeted treatments, and we have this precision medicine, we can see that we have disease genes.
Yeah.
And you talked about it, you know, so whenever we have a targeted mutation, we're in the process now of understanding, like, okay, we can understand what's happening. You know, like prostate cancer, for instance, you know, we're 2 males. So prostate cancer is 50% chance. If there's 2 men here, there's a 50% chance.
Oh my gosh.
That we're going to get prostate cancer.
Oh, you and I are a mess.
So, and usually most everybody, as you get past 70, 75,
you develop some form of cancer.
You get prostate cancer. It's whether it metastasizes or not and goes into your, you know, it can go into different parts of your body, but it could stay. But most men that die in their 80s, you know, 75, 80, 85, 90, they die not because of prostate cancer, but they die with prostate cancer.
Right.
So, and there's like 3 or 4 different types of mutations, and you can get your prostate taken out, and there's all kinds of stuff with that. But, you know, as women with breast cancer, you know, they can do, I think it's a mastectomy, not a vasectomy, a what do you call it?
Oh my gosh. Why'd you say it like that?
Yeah.
Mastectomy.
Yeah. There we go. So we're not doctors. We don't claim to be doctors.
I am absolutely not a doctor.
Anything that we say right now.
I am not a doctor.
But I'm just saying.
What's the point?
Whenever we look at this, they're using one thing and one thing only. Data.
Correct.
Now, our bodies are data.
Yeah. What is it? So here's how I see this occurring. Say in the beginning, we have this great algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. Our servers are just like crushing it with the algo. But what we find is that as time passes, the algorithm, as it gets out into the fringes, becomes weak. Oh my gosh, why is it doing that? Is there a bug in the system? We need to go back in and refine that algorithm. So if I have 3 billion data points, essentially, for one human being, that's at the fringes, as time goes forward, age, we should probably look at what's going on here. The algorithm's going a little nuts. There are some cancers developing. There are some debilitating diseases that are occurring because the genetics at the fringe, there's an issue.
Well, I think also with modern medicine, we get to the possibilities of understanding even now. And I'm not putting doctors down. I'm not putting anybody down in medicine, but a lot of stuff is dark age, and a lot of it is hocus pocus.
You bet it is.
A lot of it is guessing. You're using your brain and the knowledge that you have over a period of time to make a decision based off of a person, instead of allowing data to give us the answer. So, because, and that's what's going to happen eventually. We're going to have data points, and then a doctor will be able to look at the data and then turn around and give you a symptom, because the focus has to be, and this is why I like gene therapy and all of this, because that focus is healing.
Correct.
And that's the focus, not treating. Healing.
Right.
Big difference.
It's healing and prevention. So here's how I see this going down in the future. First of all, it's pretty ass backwards that you're going to pay $100 to swab your mouth, send it off to a company. So you're paying them so that they can also rob you in more funds that they get from using your information to sell it off to others. First of all, there's a financial problem there. That's wrong. Okay. 23andMe. Yes, I'm talking to you. Second aspect of this is we should be using systems like TARTLE. Okay. And yeah, we're going to talk about it, to have everybody come together with their genomic data. Everyone. And we should have the ability to share it to as many parties as possible, not have 23andMe dictate who it goes to, so that everyone can come together in collective research to build essentially out this massive, what I would say, aggregated human genome, a huge one, that we can pump into algorithms and test against all day long.
Well, and it's so funny because TARTLE solves the 23andMe and FDA problem.
Yeah, of course, because
then it's not going against a person's free will.
Nope.
You're paying people for that data.
Yep.
It's very, very clear. So that health test that you want to give out, that prevention health test, and that survey that you want to give to me, why would you not pay me for that?
I'm doing work for you.
Yes, that you're going to turn around and sell.
Yeah, so you should give people a cut of that.
Yes.
You shouldn't just have the world doing labor for you.
For free.
Yeah. That's ethically ass backwards.
Yes. So that's where TARTLE solves that problem.
Right. And so in that aspect, right, of the total ethics cock up that has happened at 23andMe, when we have these massive amounts of data, right? So we're collecting all these data points, this uniqueness of all these humans coming together. We should then be looking at it and just being like, let's poke it with some new proteins. Let's change a little bit of this. Let's see what the outcome looks like in this data set, especially at the fringes, when we've done some alterations.
Yeah, the molecular nature of what is going on.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
Let's see how these proteins are interacting at that level. And we should have computers running that all day long. We should try and look at, okay, where does the disease kick in? What's triggering that genetically? What sequence of the Gattaca, at what point within the 3 billion data points is it saying cancer at this age?
Well, it also comes into, like there was a gentleman that passed away because of some research that was going on, and you sign tons of forms on that, like in the sense of saying, this is experimental drugs, but the carrier, it's easy to get it's easy to solve the mutation. It's hard to get it to the proper gene. And so they have to use a carrier like a virus. Yeah. They use a virus to put it in there, and then then they can specifically have it and tell it what to do and to act in a certain way.
Yeah.
But they put the virus was kind of the wrong virus, and so it in turn caused the death. And that's horrific to the families and everyone involved. But as we began to understand that and learn from those mistakes, even though it was a huge mistake, and set years and years back on genetic mutation medicine. But as we begin to look at this, and we have something new that just came out a few years back called CRISPR, and this is controversial, but this gives us an idea of being able to go in and do splicing, which is a lot different than having a virus carry something and then hoping it works.
Correct. So it's not like we want to use some separate vehicle to try and get into where it needs to go. Let's just deal with the thing that needs the getting. So what I mean about that, for CRISPR, and you talk about like genetic sequence, these things want to bond together. So CRISPR at a very small level is doing a little bit of cutting and separating, but then the proteins want to come back and like stick. If I understand this properly, and I could be screwing this up, but they'll come and stick together. Oh, wait a minute, that was an interesting bond. They want to bond.
Right.
There's an attraction to these things. So the way we change these bonds, the sequence of how they are bonding, will essentially change the programming far into the future. Small changes here will have larger drastic changes in the future. So we need to make those small changes, run them through these very advanced algorithms, use a lot of computing power, and use the collective of everyone coming together to share their data for that research.
Well, I mean, we know with evolution, DNA breaks can cause other mutations for generations. So that's something we have to look at too. It's like, this may not just be in your lifetime. This could be your great-great-great-great-grandkids.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, we screwed them up. You know what I mean? So we have to be sure that when we do this, let's test it outside of actively getting it in the system, which means before people start having intercourse and breeding, and then the code starts mixing up, we got to make sure that we refine it outside of that. So here's how I see this occurring. You ready? In vitro fertilization. Let's take the eggs and take the sperm, bring it on the outside, fertilize it in a dish, and then actively, as the fertilization is occurring and the mitosis, the splitting, and all those other things occurring within the cell, let's look at the genetic code. You'll already be able to know when those two things bond, the sperm and the egg, how this is going to play out. You're going to know immediately. The code's already being developed. It's there. There's so much information just within that one cell. So we should be testing. And then we could test many eggs that have been fertilized and choose the best possible one through the analysis that's going to do the least amount of harm or the highest likelihood that that child will come out essentially more perfect. It won't have the disease that would come out there or some sort of debilitating thing that could occur within its own health.
Well, I think this is really interesting. Here's a perfect example. Serial killers. You're like, how do we go from CRISPR to serial killers?
What are you talking
this
about?
Is really cool, though. They're finding out through data that serial killers, a lot of them have, and this is external aspect, have a very cruel mother. So, especially men that are, looking at women, degrading women, and then, eventually taking their free will and killing them.
Yeah.
But they've also found out that there have been concussions and brain damage, through doing brain imaging and stuff like that. They found out where that part in your brain where there's like compassion and stuff like that. Usually there was like a hit on the head, a lot of trauma, an accident that happened. So they're finding that area in the brain with a lot of the different serial killers, now that they're collecting more and more data, you add that combo, those two things, and now you have a serial killer.
That's crazy. So,
but I mean, we wouldn't know that. Like the whole basis of catching serial killers, there were so many serial killers running around before the 1980s. He said, I was watching an old program the other day it was like a news thing from the early 90s, and they're like, well, there's probably 500 they were guessing, the FBI was at that time. They said there's probably 500 serial killers running around. We just can't put the pieces together.
Yeah.
We have a hard time because this sheriff's department with this murder has the data and it's only there. The FBI has some data, it's here. You know, this police department in Detroit, this guy went around and killed 100 women, and all he did was just he just drove around on the freeway and just was killing women.
But the point
randomly.
is, these things are siloed.
Yes.
We all need to come together and share our data points. And in doing so, we can catch things sooner.
Yeah, and so, you know, TARTLE can solve serial killers.
Yeah, but listen.
Killing.
Yeah, well, I definitely could. If we all shared the data, we could be on top of stuff. The point is, we don't need to have cancer.
No.
What we should do is at the end, how I see this is we should be living out the maximum of what our genetic code says. So if our genetic code says 120 years, that's it, and then the heart stops, that would be great. No disease, nothing occurring, no super illnesses, right? No, what the heck is?
You know what this is so crazy.
Go ahead.
Do you know what the number one? I mean, you have heart disease and stuff like that, but the main number one reason people after 75 die, falling.
Oh yeah, they bust a hip. They die in the hospital. It's secondary.
So you know what is the leading thing that causes? This is cool with data. This is why I love data so much, and this is why we do what we do at TARTLE. They were saying that the number one thing with preventing falling,
lack of leg strength,
grip strength.
Oh, grip strength. Yeah, to hold onto a bar or something.
Yes.
Yeah, if you look
or to put your hand, be able to put your hand down.
Right. What was I looking at for mortality rates? If you want to live longer,
yes,
it's leg strength, VO2 max, grip strength.
Yes, VO2 max is really important.
And I forget what the other one was.
VO2 max. If you go out and walk in your 70s and you can go for a walk, you're going to live 5 times longer. If you lift weights and create bone density and stuff like that, with walking, creating bone density, those things that you mentioned, it makes it 10 times longer.
That's
you have
great.
10x.
Yeah.
You don't have to take a pill.
Nope.
You don't have to do anything. You don't have to change your diet. None of those things. And hanging on a bar, so wonderful for you with your grip strength, stretching. Yeah, I know you. Yeah, I mean, your grip strength is probably incredible.
It's pretty good.
But I mean, it's these little data points that we begin to find out and see and say, oh, okay. And I want the next episode, because I know we've got to end this, but next episode, I want to get more into $600 billion these companies made off of selling your data.
Yeah.
That you paid. You paid $99, $149, $69, whatever it is. You pay them, you swab your mouth, and it's not just 23andMe, there's a lot of these. You pay them, and then they turn around and take your data and made I want you to think of those numbers. What could you do with $600 billion?
Oh my gosh.
We could solve lots of problems.
We could solve a lot of problems.
With $600 billion?
Every time you swab your mouth and you pay them $99, that should be buying you a share.
Yes.
In their profits. But they don't look at it like that.
Or 23andMe could use TARTLE and say, hey, climate stability, fill out this survey, you can donate to climate stability. Awesome. It doesn't have to be paying,
Don't pay 23andMe.
Yes.
Forget that. Gosh, why is everything so backwards?
It's ethics.
Yeah, they're not.
We put profits before people.
They're frankly not ethical. Before we close this out, for so long, people have been against genetically modifying foods. The idea was we need to genetically modify the food. We got to go into the data of the apple, and we have to make it so it's more resistant to bugs, shit like that. And what we found is that had negative effects on our gut biome. So people are like, we got to stop genetically modifying stuff. Well, hold on a second. If we can do that, why don't we genetically modify it to be more nutrient dense? It doesn't, who cares? Don't use pesticides when you're doing your farming. If a bug eats it, whatever. But if you've genetically engineered this apple to actually give you that much more, well, who cares if half the crop dies? One apple is worth 1,000, And I feel like there's been this theme, this narrative against these things that are really beneficial for us. So the way I see it is that we should bring back genetic modification of food in full force.
Well, it's no different than us and CRISPR.
This is my point. Not for economic reasons.
Right.
We should do it for reasons of human evolution and human good. That's what we should be doing.
Well, we're going to get to the point where we're going to have to, for the sake of humanity. We're going to have genetically super nutrient dense modified meat.
Yeah.
We're going to have modified food. Like you said, we're going to be 3D printing stuff
all the time.
I mean, it's going to be, and then you're going to be able to get a steak that's been 3D printed, and it's going to be like the highest protein and the best for you.
And it's not going to have any heme iron or nothing of the, the really toxic animal fats that are in there.
Right.
It's only going to be stuff that's good for you. It won't do harm to the environment. Genetic engineering, going to the source code, working together collaboratively, will be one of the most beneficial things technologically human beings can do. Outside of creating new fusion technologies for reactors, outside of all that stuff, affording ourselves the ability to look deep, deep into our history and retune or change the path of where that genetic code is going so that we have the ability to live longer, learn more, and create deeper amounts of human understanding, that's where we need to go.